Scorsese's classic gave us a raw glimpse into the everyday world of the mob like never before. The film also launched several careers and has managed to endure.
In 1990, the film Goodfellas stunned audiences with its raw portrayal of New York mob life. The iconic film tells the story of Henry Hill, a mobster and a member of New York City's Lucchese crime family. It also takes us through his wild and crazy escapades with Tommy DeVito and Jimmy Conway. But did you know the original cut was more graphic than the final cut? However, the film had to be properly readjusted after a failed test audience review. Join us in this video as we unravel the infamous scenes from the Goodfellas that didn't make it to our screens. Before we delve into the scenes that were changed to make the final cut, let us first familiarize and remind ourselves of the iconic Goodfellas film. The Goodfellas film. Goodfellas, released in 1990, received favorable reviews from fans and critics alike. It is often regarded as Martin Scorsese's best film. This is hardly surprising, given the degree of artistic brilliance and minute details that went into creating this masterpiece, which is certainly deserving of such associations. As with any cinematic masterpiece, a great deal of care was taken to ensure that Goodfellas was the ideal representation of mob life. This film, unlike most mob films, does not attempt to depict the lavish lifestyle of the mobs. Rather, it walks the audience through the graphic details, violent confrontations, and emotional interactions that take place deep within the criminal justice system. The iconic film had performances by major Hollywood stars such as Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Paul Sorvino, and Joe Pesci. However, the director's original vision was not exactly what was shown on screen. You see, maintaining the delicate balance between artistic expression and commercial response is an ongoing challenge that all directors face while working in the film industry. To make the film appealing to the general audience, without sacrificing the integrity of the story, scenes had to be re-examined and certain plot points had to be changed. So, what were these infamous scenes? Keep watching to find out. The plot behind the iconic Goodfellas. In 1995, young Henry Hill is drawn to mob life in his Brooklyn neighborhood. He began working for Paulie Cicero and his gang, which includes Tommy DeVito and Jimmy Conway. Henry starts off by selling stolen goods for Jimmy before moving on to committing bigger crimes. In the 1960s, the trio started to spend most nights at the Copacabana nightclub with women. Henry dates and ends up marrying Karen Friedman, a Jewish woman who was not pleased about his criminal life, but eventually falls for his glamorous lifestyle, despite her parents' disapproval. In 1970, Billy Batts, a member of the Gambino crime family who had been recently freed from prison, insults Tommy at a nightclub owned by Henry. Tommy and Jimmy brutally kill Billy. Knowing fully well they could face severe retaliation, they decide to bury Billy's body in upstate New York. 6 months later, they had to move the decomposing corpse when they learned the burial site would be developed. In 1974, Karen threatens Henry's mistress, Janice, and holds Henry at gunpoint. Henry moves in with Janice, but Paulie insists that he return to Karen after collecting a debt from a gambler in Tampa with Jimmy. Upon returning, Henry and Jimmy get arrested after being turned in by the gambler's sister, an FBI typist, and they get sentenced to 10 years in prison. In order to support his family, Henry has Karen smuggle in harmful substance, which he sells to a fellow inmate from Pittsburgh. 4 years later, Henry is paroled and expands his cocaine business with Tommy and Jimmy, against Paulie's orders. Jimmy puts together a team to raid the Lufthansa vault at John F. Kennedy International Airport, stealing $6 million in jewelry and cash. After some team members spend their money recklessly on expensive items against Jimmy's orders, and the getaway truck got found by the police, Jimmy kills most of them except Tommy and Henry. In 1979, Tommy is deceived into believing he has become a made man and is killed after walking into a room of the ceremony, partly as payback for killing bats. By 1980, Henry became paranoid and addicted to harmful substance. He sets up another drug deal with his Pittsburgh associates, but is arrested by agents and put in jail. After bailing him out, Karen reveals to him that she flushed $60,000 worth of cocaine down the toilet during an FBI raid to prevent them from finding it, now leaving them broke and penniless. Feeling betrayed by Henry, Paulie gives him $3,200 and cuts ties with him. Henry meets up with Jimmy, who asks him to embark on a hit, making Henry suspicious. Realizing that Jimmy had plans to have him killed, Henry decides to switch sides and become an informant. He is put in the witness protection program with his family, testifies against Jimmy and Paulie, and moves to a quiet neighborhood to follow through with the witness protection program. Henry describes his unhappiness in leaving his gangster life to live a boring and ordinary schnook. The Cold Awakening. From the outset of the film Goodfellas, audiences are thrown into the turbulent world of the Mafia. The film opens with Tommy DeVito, played by Joe Pesci, Jimmy Conway, played by Robert De Niro, and Henry Hill, played by Ray Liotta, driving through the night, with music playing in the background, and an unusual thud can also be heard. Concerning this noise, the trio pulled the car over, got out, and opened the trunk. The camera then cuts to a man who had been badly beaten and appeared to be near death. In a moment that both intrigued and shocked the audience, Tommy takes out a knife and stabs the man 3 times before Jimmy shoots him multiple times to kill him. This opening scene, which takes place before the opening credits, injects Goodfellas with the brutal and gruesome violence that provides the viewers with an introduction into the different personalities of the 3 gangsters, highlighting Tommy's unpredictable cruelty, Henry's aloof attentiveness, and the composed efficiency that punctuates Jimmy's character throughout the movie. However, the most alarming part of this scene is the eventual revelation that the man who had been killed in the car trunk was none other than Billy Batts, played by Frank Vincent. Billy Batts, a minor antagonist in the movie and a member of the Gambino crime family, is a character who meets a tragic end. And what's even more astounding was the real reason Billy was killed, as was revealed later in the movie. The trio, Henry, Jimmy, and Tommy, had met with Billy at a bar owned by Henry, where Billy had been celebrating his release from prison. But what started as a simple social gathering quickly took a terrible turn when Billy decided to lecture Tommy on how he used to be a shoeshine boy prior to his venture into the gangster life. The insult was later punctuated with Billy's iconic line to Tommy, "Now go home and get your shoebox," which was the insult that sealed his fate. But this wasn't exactly how this scene was supposed to go, according to the initial plan. Initially, the scene was scripted differently, as seen by a test audience. Tommy was supposed to stab Billy 7 times on screen. This was to accurately depict the gory scenes that sometimes accompany the gangster life. But during the first screening of the movie before a test audience, the reception to this scene wasn't exactly positive. The scenes were so brutally depicted that some of the members of the test audience were said to have walked out from this very first scene. You will agree that such a reaction would be pretty bad for any movie, not to mention such an iconic cinematic piece like Goodfellas. From this first review, it was back to the drawing board for director Martin Scorsese, along with Nicholas Pileggi and Irwin Winkler, the movie's producer, who brainstormed on how to reduce the gore and violence while maintaining the integrity of the storyline, as attaining this delicate balance was very essential because not only was the film supposed to be a work of art, but it also had to be received with open arms by the audience. To combat this problem, it was decided that a compromise would be reached, and the scenes would be slightly adjusted to make for more comfortable viewing, without sacrificing the core message. Instead of 7 stabbings, it was reduced to 3 on-screen stabs, with the sounds of the rest filling the viewer's imagination. This ensured the scene's intensity was maintained, even though only 3 stabs were shown. One night, he casually told one of the wise guys that he was a funny guy. The mobster didn't take the comment well, reacting with a stone-cold glare that shook Pesci. Years later, that unnerving moment found its way into Goodfellas. Scorsese's approach to directing the scene was just as clever. He kept the full extent of the improvisation a secret, sharing the concept only with Pesci and Liotta. This meant the rest of the cast had no idea what was coming, which added a layer of authenticity to their reactions. Ray Liotta's nervous laughter and confusion, completely real. That spontaneous energy gave the scene a raw, believable quality that helped make it one of the film's most iconic moments. And this wasn't a one-off. Throughout Goodfellas, Scorsese masterfully wove in real anecdotes and experiences shared by Henry Hill during interviews. These grounded the story in reality and gave the film its reputation as one of the most authentic portrayals of the Mafia ever made. It became more than just a gangster movie. It evolved into a powerful character study, a brutal cautionary tale, and a cultural phenomenon. Since its release, Goodfellas has only grown in stature. It's frequently ranked among the greatest films of all time, praised for its gripping narrative, unforgettable characters, and uncompromising look at mob life. From Henry Hill's overlooked military service to Joe Pesci's improvised moment of menace, each element contributes to a larger legacy, one that has cemented the film's place in cinematic history. What about you? Were you surprised to learn about these untold parts of Henry Hill's life and the real events that inspired scenes in the movie? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this classic piece of American cinema. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Tap on the link that pops up on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.